What if I told you there was an invention capable of forever altering the fate of humanity? But it was silenced before it even saw the light of day. A forgotten artifact, hidden in the shadows of history, as if someone decided the world wasn't ready to know it. Who would want to bury it? Why have we never heard of it? And most of all, what would our present be like if this creation had been revealed? At the end of the 19th century, amid a world in turmoil with the Industrial Revolution, a promise emerged that could have radically altered the course of humanity. It was a time of contrasts. On one side, factories spewing smoke and cities growing at a frenetic pace. On the other, scientists and inventors daring to push the limits of the possible. It was in this setting that a man, visionary and restless, presented to the world a creation that seemed to have come from a distant future. His name, now almost forgotten, echoed among academic and industrial circles as that of someone who dared to dream beyond the acceptable. But who was he? A misunderstood genius? Or just another dreamer lost among gears and scribbled paper? The fact is, his invention promised something no one had achieved before: a clean, abundant, and virtually free form of energy. Imagine the impact this would have on a society still dependent on coal, steam, and noisy engines that consumed natural resources mercilessly. The inventor worked in a small makeshift laboratory, far from the major centers of power, but his ideas quickly attracted attention. Accounts from the time describe public demonstrations in which lamps lit without wires, machines operated without fuel, and electrical currents seemed to appear out of nowhere. The audience watched in astonishment, unable to comprehend how this was possible. Was it magic? Was it fraud? Or was it, in fact, a glimpse of a future we were not yet ready to accept? The turn of the century brought with it a frantic race for patents, investments, and monopolies. Giant corporations vied for control of electricity, oil, and communications. In this environment, any invention that threatened to upset the balance of power was viewed with suspicion. And this man's creation, bold and disruptive, seemed too dangerous to ignore. Can you imagine what it meant back then? To propose an energy source that didn't rely on coal, oil, or expensive and complex transmission lines. Think of the impact on governments, armies, and corporations that profited from scarcity. Consider also the fear this could generate. Fear of losing fortunes, fear of losing control, fear of opening the doors to a world where energy was no longer a privilege, but a universal right. And so, amidst timid applause and suspicious glances, the invention began to gain fame, but also enemies. Documents from the time suggest that initially interested investors suddenly backed away. Newspapers that had previously extolled the inventor began to treat him as an eccentric, almost a charlatan. What had happened behind the scenes? Who had decided that this discovery should not prosper? What we do know is that little by little the creator's name was erased and his invention was relegated to oblivion. But was this simply neglect? Or was there something darker behind this silence? And when we think about this inventor slowly being erased from the collective memory, it's impossible not to reflect on how so many important stories end up buried by time. And here I want to open a space for you. If this topic resonates with you, leave a comment below with what has touched you most so far, or even if you've already heard of something similar. Your insight can enrich this conversation and bring new perspectives that I might not have raised myself. And since we're building this space of mystery and reflection together, don't forget to like the video. It shows that this kind of content truly has value for you. And if you want to continue following these dark and thought-provoking narratives, subscribe to the channel. Your participation here is what makes this channel grow and reach more people who also seek to delve into forgotten and almost forbidden stories. Now, back to our journey. Had the invention been accepted and widespread, the world would have taken a completely different path. Imagine a planet where energy wasn't a scarce, expensive, or controlled by a few resources, but rather something abundant, accessible, and virtually free. Consider the impact this would have on societies still marked by profound inequalities, on cities suffocated by coal smoke, and on nations waging silent wars for control of oil. This creation promised to free humanity from one of the greatest chains holding it back: energy dependence. Have you ever stopped to think about how energy shapes every aspect of our lives? From the light we turn on with the flick of a switch, to the complex systems that keep hospitals, transportation, and communications running. Now imagine all of this without exorbitant costs, without fossil fuels, without the need to exploit every last natural resource on the planet. What would have happened to the global economy if suddenly energy stopped being a market commodity and became a universal good? The invention promised not only to transform everyday life, but also to accelerate scientific and technological advances in unimaginable ways. Think of computers emerging decades earlier. global communication networks established long before the internet, and faster and more accessible travel. Perhaps even space exploration would have begun earlier, fueled by an inexhaustible energy source. Would we already be living in colonies beyond Earth? And it wasn't just about material progress. The promise of this invention also touched the social realm. If energy were abundant and free, how would this have affected the distribution of power between countries? Would entire nations have escaped extreme poverty? Would wars fought over oil and resources have even occurred? How many lives could have been saved if humanity had followed this path? Comparing this to the present, it's inevitable to think about how we still struggle with energy crises, climate change, and inequality in access to basic resources. Today, we discuss renewable energy, solar panels, and wind turbines as solutions for a sustainable future. But what if all of this had already been resolved over a century ago? What if, at this very moment, we were reaping the fruits of an energy revolution that never happened? This invention didn't just promise to change the world, it promised to redefine the concept of human progress. And perhaps that's precisely why it was deemed too dangerous to exist. If, up until this point, the invention seemed destined to transform the world, it is precisely at this point that the narrative takes on a darker tone. Because, suddenly, what promised to liberate humanity began to be treated as a threat. But why? What could have led to such a revolutionary discovery being buried in oblivion? Records from the time suggest that the inventor faced increasingly intense pressure. Investors who had previously expressed enthusiasm began to back out without convincing explanations. Major newspapers, which had initially extolled the genius of the creation, began publishing articles ridiculing the project, calling it a dangerous fantasy or a fairground trick. Have you ever noticed how public opinion can often be shaped almost invisibly? Who would have an interest in discrediting something so promising? The answer may lie in the economic interests that dominated the period. Giant corporations had invested fortunes in oil, coal, and electrical infrastructure. An invention that offered abundant, free energy posed a direct threat to entire empires. Imagine the impact. Transmission lines would become obsolete, refineries would lose value, and governments would see their revenue sources evaporate. Would anyone really allow such a revolution to happen without resistance? Furthermore, there was the political factor. Energy has always been synonymous with power. Controlling access to it meant controlling nations, armies, and entire populations. If suddenly anyone could have unlimited access to an energy source, how could the balance of power be maintained? How could the authority of governments that relied precisely on scarcity be upheld? Perhaps the invention would be seen not only as an economic threat, but also as a risk to the world order. And there was another layer: fear. The unknown always arouses fear, and such advanced, unprecedented technology seemed to defy the known laws of physics. Some scientists at the time even argued that it could be too dangerous, that manipulating invisible forces could generate unpredictable consequences. But was this argument genuine, or just another smokescreen to justify silence? The inventor, increasingly isolated, began to be portrayed as eccentric, almost a lunatic. His pleas for support were ignored, his patents faced endless bureaucratic obstacles, and little by little his creation disappeared from public debate. What was once a hope became taboo. Have you ever wondered how many brilliant ideas have been stifled not by technical flaws, but by vested interests? How many times has progress been halted because it threatened the privileges of a few? What we do know is that this invention wasn't just forgotten, it was silenced. And the silence in this case seems to have been carefully orchestrated. It wasn't chance that erased it from history. It was a decision that to this day makes us wonder. What was so dangerous about that discovery? When an invention disappears so abruptly, leaving only fragmentary traces in old newspapers and contradictory reports, silence inevitably gives way to theories. And in this case, the hypotheses are as intriguing as they are disturbing. Some say the invention was simply too powerful, that, if unleashed, it could have jeopardized not only the global economy, but also the very stability of society. Imagine a world where anyone could access unlimited energy. How could we control it? How could we prevent it from being used for destructive purposes? This is one of the most frequently repeated versions, that the invention was buried to protect humanity from itself. But doesn't this justification sound a bit too convenient? Others believe the real motive was much more earthly: money. Large corporations, already established and profiting from oil, coal, and electricity, did everything they could to stifle the innovation. Some say secret meetings were held, contracts were torn up, and even veiled threats were made to the inventor. Do you believe that economic interests would be capable of suppressing such a revolutionary discovery? Or does this seem like just another conspiracy theory? there are still those who argue that governments played a direct role in this disappearance. Unconfirmed documents suggest that official agents confiscated prototypes and notes, classifying everything as a state secret. If this is true, the invention may have been studied in silence, hidden in military laboratories, away from public view. And here a disturbing question arises. Does this technology still exist? Stored in inaccessible vaults, waiting for the right moment to be used. And it doesn't stop there. Some more obscure reports tell of mysterious accidents involving people close to the inventor, witnesses who disappeared, laboratories burned down without explanation, and even rumors that the creator himself had been silenced. Coincidences? Or signs that something much bigger was going on behind the scenes? The curious thing is that, even decades later, fragments of this invention continue to surface in unexpected places. Similar patents registered under different names, experiments that seem to echo the same ideas, and even modern projects that essentially resemble what was presented in the 19th century. Are these attempts to rescue what was lost, or merely shadows of a truth that was never revealed? And you, what do you think? Do you believe this invention was forgotten only by chance, or that occult forces actively worked to erase it from history? Could we be facing one of the greatest secrets ever hidden from humanity? The mystery remains, and perhaps it's precisely this lack of answers that makes the story so fascinating. Because, deep down, the question that resonates isn't just about what happened in the past, but about what might still be hidden in the present. And so, after we have walked through the dark corridors of history, only one question remains, echoing like an uneasy whisper. What if everything had been different? Imagine for a moment, if that forgotten invention hadn't been silenced, that it had been accepted, developed, and shared with the world. What would the present we live in be like? Would we now be communicating through even more advanced technologies, perhaps without the need for cables, complex networks, or planet-destroying fuels? Consider the wars that marked the 20th century. How many conflicts were fought over control of oil, gas, and coal? How many lives were sacrificed in the name of energy? If the promise of that creation had been realized, would these bloody chapters in our history ever have happened? Or would new conflicts have arisen, this time over control of knowledge itself, of invention itself? What about the environment? Today, we live under the shadow of climate change, global warming, and the destruction of entire ecosystems. But what if, over 100 years ago, we had adopted a clean, abundant, and universal energy source? Would we still be facing the same environmental crisis, or would we be living on a more balanced planet, where nature and technology coexisted in harmony? Now, look around you. Every light bulb, every device, every second of internet connection depends on a gigantic, expensive, and unequal infrastructure. But what if all of this were different? What if energy were as natural as the air we breathe? How would this have transformed not only the economy but also the way we relate to one another? Would social inequality have diminished? Would entire countries have escaped poverty? Some believe that if this invention had been used, we would already be living in floating cities, traveling through space, or exploring oceans with technologies that today seem like science fiction. Others, more skeptical, say that humanity would have found a way to transform even this gift into a weapon, an instrument of domination. What do you think? Would we be able to handle so much power? Or would we end up destroying ourselves even faster? The most disturbing thing is to think that perhaps this invention isn't entirely lost. Perhaps it still exists, hidden in vaults, stored in secret laboratories, waiting for the right or wrong moment to be revealed. What if, somewhere, someone is already working quietly to bring it back? Would we be ready to receive it now? The silence surrounding this story isn't just a detail. It's a reminder that progress isn't always driven by human genius or need, but often by the interests of a few. And when something threatens those interests, no matter how much it might benefit humanity, it's erased. But what would happen if suddenly this invention were rediscovered? If tomorrow someone revealed to the world a working prototype capable of offering unlimited and free energy? How would governments, corporations, and the military react? And how would we, ordinary citizens, react to the possibility of living in a completely different world? We may never know. Perhaps this is just another lost story among so many others. But the question remains, throbbing like an open wound. What if the forgotten invention that could have changed the world had been used? What do you think? Would our world be a better place? Or would we be facing an even darker future? If you've made it this far, it's because this story also touched you in some way. So do the following. Leave a comment with the phrase, "I'm with you until the end," just so I know who really walked with me until the last second of this narrative. Your presence here makes all the difference. And since we've created this connection, please leave a like. It's a simple gesture, but it shows that this content is valuable to you and helps me continue bringing you stories like this. If you want to see more, subscribe to the channel. That way you won't miss anything, and you'll also strengthen this community that grows with each video. And before you leave, there's a video here that complements this topic. Click and stay with me there. The journey isn't over yet.